Hello, I'm Paul McGann, and you're watching the Omega Files.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Omega Files. And tonight we're going to talk about tonight's penultimate episode to Series 11, It Takes You Away. And no, this has nothing to do with Pennywise the Dancing Clown, but a rather creepy, interesting, sordid tale set in Norway. No Vikings involved, unfortunately. All right, well, I want to hear your guys' views on it, so we're going to start at the top this time, starting with Callan. Go ahead and tell us your opening thoughts on It Takes You Away.
Well, as said before, quite a bit by the numbers. Unusual. Thought-provoking. Yeah. Reasonable. Not overly interested. A friend has said you're just a frog in a black hole of consciousness. Sounds like a good gig to me. That's my opening thoughts.
All righty. Okay, Connor.
I actually thought that for the most part, it was up there, like in the top sort of echelons of Doctor Who history. It was incredible. I thought, personally, the story was thought-provoking, as Callan said. It was strange. It was very different. I think that Doctor Who TV described it as sort of moving the goalposts. And it did feel that way. It didn't feel like anything that had come before. And usually, you know, you've had episodes in the past like Listen and Heaven Sent that I think is a sort of a little subgroup I would place this episode in. The acting was phenomenal. Jodie, finally, 9 weeks later, has become the Doctor. She really, really stood out in this one incredibly well. Finally, we have some semblance of something that we can get behind and something that we can root for, almost. Something that resembles also a serious, more tonally different Doctor, which is something that we've demanded of her for weeks and weeks and weeks. I think that in terms of production-wise, the settings of the episodes was amazing. I absolutely adored the red lighting in the anti-zone. I thought it reminded me of Planet of Evil. It was quite 70s Hinchcliffe, sort of an episode. I thought it was a work of art. Even the talking frog, to be honest, was a work of art. It was very avant-garde and very strange at the same time.
All righty. Okay, Paul.
Hey. Thank you. Sorry, you'll have to forgive me first off for wearing my outfit. I've just come back from a Comic-Con and I didn't have the chance to get changed, so apologies. I thought it was an okay episode. I liked it. Like Connor, I thought Jodie stood out really well this time. I thought she really acted like the Doctor. Yeah, so basically, opening statement, yeah, it was okay.
All righty. Okay, DWC.
Well, again, like Paul just said, I kind of have to echo Connor there. Jodie was absolutely brilliant. I can now absolutely see what everyone else was saying when people said that Jodie just didn't feel too much like Doctor because she wasn't really in charge or in control, but she was absolutely at the forefront. She was saying, right, this is what we're doing. Here it is. We're going to do this, and I'm going to solve the problem. That's brilliant. She didn't need anyone to reinforce it. She was great in that. And another thing that other people have been going on about is the fact that we haven't really had a real a feeling of a threat of a life-threatening situation. But now, right in the anti-zone, right there, the flesh moths, right there. You actually saw them create a carcass, and one of them even came out of the eye. That's a real threat of death right there. And just the overall story, a really poignant. It is one of those questions that you get in science fiction a lot. Is fantasy better than reality? And that's just one of these things I don't think anyone's ever going to be able to completely answer. Overall, the tone was just brilliant. Really got you stuck in as far as I could tell. And this is, frankly, without a doubt, one of the better episodes that we've had in a long time.
BKB. All right, Philip.
This was a good episode to a certain point, up to a point. I did think that the girl, the actress that played the blind girl, she did very well in this episode. I thought she stood out quite well for me. And the fact that she gave Ryan a few short shrifts was good girl. You know, because in this episode, I found him quite annoying and pretty much back again with this my nan thing. And okay, yes, they brought back the woman that plays the nan. And that was a nice little touch to the story. But it's like, do we have to keep revisiting that kind of sorrow thing every time? Now, I hope this is the last time we get to deal with that. The story itself, it was fine. It was nice. I do think that the dad was kind of bad for doing what he did by pretending there's monsters outside the house to keep the daughter safe. And yet he's selfish enough to go and stay in the other zone to be with his wife. That's kind of selfish in itself. I'm a bit miffed that they cut out the bit about the giant tall monster that we all heard about, that he didn't get a chance to shine in that episode. I have a big phobia about the moths, so seeing those moth things, you would have seen me run a mile just to be in that tunnel with that lot chasing after me. It was all right. Jodie stood out very well in this one as well, like everybody said. This is one of the best episodes for me, for her being a doctor, so she done well there. I don't know. I enjoyed it, but then the spoiler, the big old thing that spoiled it, the frog. Well, I'm not going to swear, but why would you even spoil a good story by putting in a frog? Why do that? You could have just let it be something else completely, and then you ruined it for me. But otherwise, it's a good story.
I was hoping it was going to be Mr. Snuffleupagus there, but well, it turns out it wasn't. He got edited out. Okay, Graham.
Hey, how we doing, guys? Yeah, this was enjoyable for me. Like Connor alluded to, I enjoyed the setting of the anti-zone. Off the side, like Point of Evil, also kind of had a wee echo vibe of the Upside Down for Stranger Things. Moths notwithstanding. As the guys have alluded to, one of Jodie's stronger outings, definitely of the season and thus far in her tenure. So we'll see how that develops. Good showing for her this evening. The actress that played the blind girl, Emily Welbeck, I believe her name is, great portrayal from her tonight. Obviously she is blind herself, so good outing for her. The subplot with Graham and Eric, is fantasy better than reality, with the whole bringing back their dead wives. Yeah, it's a trope that's been used in science fiction before. We've seen it a million times. We'll see it a million times more after tonight, but it worked well here tonight, and it served the story. So all in all, an enjoyable outing for me. But like Philip, the wee blot on the coffee book, the animatronic frog. Now, while I get what they were aiming for with the whole Sharon D. Clark voicing it, and it was representing the necklace that Graham had for Grace and all the rest of it, you think a subliminal entity would come up with a better physical form than that. Just saying. That's the only mind a blot in the copybook for me, but all in all, enjoyable outing.
All righty. Okay, moving on. Let's go over to Beefhead.
This is going to be a bit of a head scratcher, really. I had to check because I hadn't been drinking when I'd watched it. I had to check that I hadn't taken any medication that perhaps reacted with me badly. And trying to put it within the sort of scope of where this series has been so far. Wow, this is, definitely out of left field. The setup was really good. The music was good. I liked Ribbons and his sort of his bartering sort of cannibalistic character to him. I did like that. That he's just completely untrustworthy. Then obviously you get this sort of strange alternative dimension. I'm just wondering what they were trying to do with it. Were they trying to make a message about loss? In which case, it's a very high concept thing, which I think will leave a lot of kids strangely confused. So, from the accessibility point of view, it's a weird one. And the frog reveal at the end, it just reminds me of the Matrix, and that necessarily wasn't the best sequel when you've got the architect at the end of it. It probably would have been better to have gone out on the Rainbow Connection than anything else by the end of this episode. Jodie, it's taken them 9 weeks, but they finally managed to do an episode where they've got her on point, and that much I will say definitely. Again, though, rivaling her for Spotlight of the Week is Graham, because his character was bang on. His internal conflict and about how he felt it was unfair that was palpable. That his acting was absolutely stellar this week. I've got to agree with Philip though. That Honda's dad just seemed unrealistic. That he would basically throw his daughter to basically fend for herself in the freezer. That just seemed a bit off-put to me. But I get what they were trying to do. It did, to me, seem a little bit muddled. The concept was great. The execution was maybe a bit off, because it just seemed to be that certain scenes just seemed out of place and didn't work. But on the whole, I enjoyed it. But it just seems like the biggest odd duck out of the whole season. It's sort of, I think it is. It's like you love it or hate it, and this will be very divisive as time goes on. I think of anything, this is the most Marmite one we've had so far.
Hobie Cavey. All right, let's move over to Josh.
I really liked this episode. I thought the writing was really good. The setting was really good. It was just, I forgot that I was watching Doctor Who. That's how kind of left field it was. It was just really weird and really out there. And I liked the villain and stuff. But towards the end, I thought that they did too much with what I forgot what they were called, the villain of this episode. That they were basically like they created a whole other world, and it just felt like kind of crazy toward the end. But overall, it was really good. And it fit the style of Doctor Who really well. Like, you can basically write about anything in Doctor Who and get away with it.
All righty. Okay, Vil.
There you go. Just I had to unmute. To really highlight what I'm saying, I need to kind of take a step back and say that, and I'm not trying to be a hater, I'm really not. I've just not been thrilled with this entire series. I haven't hated it, but I haven't really been able to get into it like I have. But that's not to say that there haven't been positive points. I'm loving what they've done with the music, a little rehash of the Tom Baker era there, and I'm really digging the hell out of them doing standalone stories like you saw in the classic episodes. I think it's somewhere in the writing, and I've had a hard time really picturing Jodie as the Doctor. And it's not because, what's between her legs. I don't know if it's the writing or what it is with her, but I feel like if it was someone with the acting chops of, say, Michelle Gomez, I would have gone, that's the Doctor within an episode or two. So that being said, this one, I guess I'm going to be slightly echoing people here. I feel like this episode was better. I'm still not really feeling her as the Doctor, but I have to say that it was definitely closer with this one than I've seen with other episodes. And overall, I'm going to say that of what I've seen this entire season, or series, if you will, this has been the best one so far. I did like the pacing of the story. I actually got into what was going on. Maybe I'm just into weird things, but I really did dig the whole going into another world through a mirror, and it kind of in that sense, it kind of made me feel like I was watching some of the wonky stuff you'd see in the old series.
All righty. Okay, and Texas Tim.
Yeah, I'd agree with just about everybody so far. I would say that at last you've got something that's Doctor Who rather than something that's pretending to be Doctor Who in a lot of ways, because this was the most Doctor Who-ish episode they've done so far this year. I agree with everybody that said that Jodie was more effective as the Doctor this week, but in a way still more annoying than endearing. I think that the script had some great ideas, but a little bit too much exposition in the middle. I mean, she really explains the whole backstory, which I think that could have been done more effectively if she'd actually met the creature at that point and the creature explained itself. I don't really have any problem with the surrealism. I think that's always good in Doctor Who. The frog was unexpected, but I thought it was kind of cool in a way because it was I think it was deliberately horribly done. I mean, unrealistic, I would say. I think that's part of what they were trying to aim for with the surrealism. And I would think that this was just on the whole better than what we've had so far. A little bit more like Doctor Who than a show that's not quite there yet. It's a pity it took them 9 episodes to get there, I think, and there's only 1 left or 2 really. But that's my opening.
Oh, BKB? Yeah, sadly, Mr. Stuffalopagus got edited out of this episode. Well, at least now we know why these photos got leaked out so early, and that's because this guy was completely edited out. Can't remember the actor's name that they had in the suit, but
is it a vampire Ood?
Yeah, but yeah, giant aardvark guy, unfortunately. Well, aardvark Nosferatu, whatever you want to call him. Yeah, he didn't make it into the episode. So, but now we know why they leaked those 2 photos got out and they didn't really care. They didn't go after him like they've done other things. Yeah, this episode was pretty weird. Like I said, I was telling the guys before we came on that it reminded me of something my game master used to do back in the day when we were running whatever game, and he had this frog pop up and kind of guide the way to one of our adventures, and we had gone so far off the plot that he had no other way to get us back on track. So he came up with this nifty way to do it, and I explained it to the guys earlier. And but like I said, this one, yeah, like I said, it was it had tension, it had suspense. The doctor actually stood up, took charge of the situation rather than delegating it out, as we've seen in previous episodes. Also, she got the chance to say, look, I know what this is because, someone in my past told me about it, and then begins to go into what this thing is and all that. And I thought that was incredibly key because, as we've seen over the season, they've tried to kind of wedge her into this ensemble, but in this one, she stood out more and actually took charge. So you got to give her that. All right, so we got hands already going up. Philip, you had yours hand up first, so go right on ahead.
You just touched upon about the fact that somebody in her family mentioned about this whole thing. Right, am I of the understanding that when Jodie speaks about her grandmothers or wherever they were, that it's one Time Lord in different regenerations? Because she's going grandma 1, 2 to 5. So I'm thinking it's not separate people, but one person in different regenerations.
We don't know.
Lots of divorce.
Which would then tell me that particular grandma has been a woman throughout all her generations. Then
could be, maybe not.
He was a man for most of his.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but that's just something that sort of like twisting my brain a bit. Okay.
All right, DWC.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like this episode, there was one thing that annoyed me, and it's really more of a continuity thing because Hannah was speaking English throughout the entire thing. That's fine. I mean, there was one part where she's getting really terrified. It takes you away. And I was thinking, why isn't she speaking Norwegian? Then I suddenly realized, because the TARDIS is translating. Great, that's fine. That's perfectly within canon. That's normal. But then the Doctor goes through the mirror, goes through the portal, goes to other universe. The dad is speaking in English, and mother is speaking in English too. They're nowhere near the TARDIS by that point. What the hell happened there? Unless they spoke English anyway, I don't know.
No, the one that's wrecking my brain is if the threat wasn't real, why was the house barricaded? But okay, that's just me. Okay, Connor.
To touch upon the Jodie, not criticism for once, actually. the point that we made about Jodie being a lot better. I think the one scene that made it for me was when they realised that the portal was in the mirror, and she basically wrote on the wall, while saying it was actually a map of the house, is assume the daddy's dead, protect Hannah. And I think that was something that very much echoes Peter Capaldi's Doctor, but also it kind of takes a few steps back from the criticism that I said last week about them humanizing the Doctor too much. It's kind of brought back that alien, more aloof sort of third eye feel about the Doctor's character that you should have. It's not someone that processes emotions like a human being. So to have that sort of Capaldiism, I'll call it, of sort of being kind of blunt to the point about, this person could well be dead. We're not going to beat around the bush about any sort of happy ending to this. It made me connect to Jodie's Doctor a lot more. And I think that is one of the moments that will come as a standout and maybe the birth of Jodie's more doctorish personality, hopefully. And hopefully the start of many more great things to come from her.
Okay, Texas Tim.
Graham had his hand up before me, so if you want to.
Oh, okay. Graham?
Yeah.
Was he the other way, but thanks, Tim. No, I'll just echo Beef's point. I'm a wee bit upset we never saw Mera Ribbons. Really interesting character. I'm a wee bit miffed that he ended up as just a red shirt to the moths, but what can you do? I would like to have dived into him a wee bit more. He seemed threatening and maniacal. And I'd just like to agree with Connor with his points with regards to Jodie. Very alien indeed. So give us more of that, please, for the last two and beyond next year.
Okay, Tim, what do you want to add?
Well, you asked why the house was barricaded. Wasn't that just part of the father's ruse to keep the girl thinking that she was in danger so she would chill out while he went and hung out with her mom? I mean, isn't that what that was about? Because Ryan finds the speaker device.
Yeah, it could be that. Yeah, that he did it just to add on to the illusion. Okay, Vil, you said you wanted your hand up, so go on ahead. You got to unmute.
Thank you for that. Actually, I was just trying to figure out how to do it so that I could when I needed to. I didn't have anything to throw in just yet.
All right, anybody else?
But some of the scenes were a bit sloppy. Like DWC mentioned the girl under the table. That just didn't seem to fit, really. I don't know if you'd blame that on the writing, but my whole issue with it, I think that's the biggest flaw in this story is some of the writing could have been planned better or could have been done better. I think like you pointed out, that was good that she told the story of what this thing was and where it came from. But it might have been more interesting if it was shown rather than told. I think that's something we've mentioned in previous episodes. But on the whole, this was much better than what we've been getting, I would say, as far as being Doctor Who.
Okay, Philip.
Is it me or this is the second time that when Grace has shown up, it's been just with Graham and her. But why have they not sort of allowed Ryan to sort of be there and experience that as well? Because she was just as much closer to him than she was with Graham, and it seems a bit unfair that Ryan doesn't get that kind of interaction with her.
My only theory in that is that I think Ryan's been able to move on, whereas Graham hasn't. He's having a lot tougher time doing it. At least that's my opinion. That's what I think's going on. Okay, Connor?
For one, Philip, they don't have the cleaning bill for that event to happen, because we all know how Ryan would react if he knew that his nan was back, based on the last 9 weeks. And for my second point, which I've just forgotten, no, I haven't. I think that the threat of this episode was particularly great because actually up until the point where Grace kind of was about to give Ryan up to the whatever was inside the anti-zone, it was actually quite the perfect threat. It was convincing enough to almost get them all killed. and then that little slip up just happened. So it was just that little moment that ruined the whole plan of whoever the villain was, that the sentient universe, we'll call it. And I think that it's that kind of threat that kind of makes episodes like these a lot better, because it very nearly could have been the end of them all.
Okay, Graham?
Yeah, that's a fair point there, Connor. I just want to echo, I think it was Beef that said it again earlier too, as well as Jodie being a standout in tonight's episode. Bradley Walsh, absolutely freaking phenomenal. That scene when the realisation hits before he gets dispersed back into the anti-zone, so close, you were so close. Excellent stuff. Yeah, sorry for you, sentient universe, for you, the chase is over.
Okay, Josh?
Going back to what Connor said about not Connor, I'm sorry, Philip said about Ryan, not experiencing these moments of grace or whatever. I think it's partly what Connor said, and then I think it's partly because they have to write for 3 people, so they can't include every little thing for every one of the companions too, which is kind of annoying to me, because it feels like week after week, like one of the companions is kind of pushed aside, but not as fleshed out as I would like, because there are 3 of them, so.
Okay, I can see that. All right. DWC?
Yeah, just going back to Ribbons again, I think it was Beef who wanted to know more about him. Yeah, I want to know more about him, because frankly, was it ever stated what his race was? Was it an entirely new race or at all? Because the only reason I say is because literally when I saw him, I thought, is he a Sycorax? Because honestly, that's what I got initially until I got a closer look. But yeah, probably not. But still, yeah, I'd like to know about it. Also, something Tim was saying about he thought that when the girl was under the table, the writing was sloppy. That wasn't really what annoyed me. The only thing that got me it just got my pulses going when I noticed. I thought she'd be starting to get scared in her own language until I realized, oh, that's the TARDIS. That's all I was saying on that one.
Okay, Paul?
Yeah, going back to the part where they were in the alternate universe and they met Joyce, I think it was really well done, but I think they should have added the word daughter to the grand, and then I think that would have made everyone's day, because then I wonder what Jodie would have done, because it would have been her then that was, do I go back to the universe or not?
Okay, Graham?
Just to follow up on his point as to why Ryan doesn't get any screen time with Grace after her death. Well, put it this way, Phil, had they done that this evening, you wouldn't have got your fist pump moment of the evening when the blind girl took him out with the door. So, you must have been quite happy with that, surely?
Okay, Tim?
I was going to say that this would have been a good opportunity to lose a companion if they wanted to. Not that anybody wants to see Graham leave, because he is by far the best character in the show. But I assumed that at the end of the episode, that chances are he would just been like, "I'm ready to go home. Can you take me home, please?" Or had he not, had his Yahoo moment with the fake Grace, then. You know what I mean? This was an opportunity because obviously we're narrowing down and we're not even sure if this guy's gonna be back next year. So this might have been a good episode to ditch the character if they wanted to lose a companion at this point.
Okay, Philip?
I did like the little shades of tentatism, if that's a word, with Jodie at the beginning of the episodes where she's nearly eating up the entire countryside by licking the dirt and eating this and eating that. I thought it was quite a nice little coda or nod to Tennant in her.
Okay, Connor?
Yeah, I actually have to agree with Philip about that. I liked the whole sheep revolution, or whatever it was called. bloodbath that was alluded to. I would like to see an episode with that. Just going to the characters a bit more. Kevin Eldon, who is a phenomenal actor, was a bit wasted, unfortunately, his ribbons, but he was amazing in what he was in, and I would have loved to have seen more of him. And as Graham had alluded to, the set of the Anti-Zone feeling a bit more Stranger Things. I got a lot of 11 vibes from Hannah the girl, even though she didn't have powers like 11. It kind of felt like it was very much based on someone of 11's ilk, where like headstrong girl who could actually probably fend for herself more than she knows, even though she is blind. Just getting a bit of courage. And yeah, I think the fist pump moment of the episode was seeing that god awful Ryan getting knocked out by that door.
Okay, DWC.
Just wanted to touch upon something Tim said about how we don't even know if Graham's going to be around next series. Well, we've already seen the production photos for the New Year's special, so unless he's being often in that, I think he's safe to say he's going to be fine.
Okay, Beef.
Like I say, it's weird though to say that there is a sort of threat to this, because apart from the idea that the alternate universe is collapsing, the biggest threat in this really was Ribbons. Yeah, and echoing what Connor said. Yeah, I think he was underused, but he was the most aggressive one in it, with sort of like the bone knives and sort of trying to basically cut the thread so they lost themselves in the maze and everything like that, and you knew that he was going to do them a disservice in some way. It's weird though, because I think this is the idea of the sort of loss and moving on, is the idea of what they were trying to convey with this, but it sort of then made the middle bit seem unnecessary, to have that sort of arduous trip in the middle to get to the other point. I understand that you have to have a buffer and a void beyond it, and they've touched on that sort of thing in the series gone past, but it just, I think for me at points it just seemed clumsy. I think, for want of a better description, I think the end parts were written well, and I think it would have benefited from perhaps there being a lure to the Doctor to sort of second guess herself as to if she would stay, because as soon as Graham left, then Grace's avatar disappeared, and then as soon as the husband went, the wife sort of became it's surplus to requirements. So it would have been nice to have then had it sort of readjust itself, so to have that sort of lure and say, look, this is collapsing and anything like that. Then you get the reveal of whoever you want, whoever your architect is, in this case, a frog. And to be honest with you, I would have expected perhaps the animation on it to be slightly better. Given the amount of money that they've spent on this season so far, I would have liked the animation to have been a bit better. It just made me think of Hypnotoad from Futurama.
Okay, Josh.
Yeah, I forgot to say this in my opening statement. Going back to Jodie's quirkiness in this episode, and like her eating all the soil and like everything on the ground and stuff, I really got Patrick Troughton vibes from that, because like it was just really like space hobo type thing, and I really like that. And as far as the animation, like I think, as far as like, I don't know, I think they were trying to make the animation kind of have that 70s type of feel. Especially like the end of the episode, it just looked really weird with the frog and the mouth movement, because like it just seemed really unnatural, but I think that's what they were going for.
Okay, I had a flashback back to Family Guy. I was like, you got to give up the toad now. Okay, Tim.
I was gonna, to Beef's point, yeah, and not to Joshua's. I do think it was deliberately cheesy looking. I think that was just part of the whole surreal experience of where they ended up in the episode. I just think that I'm not sure. I mean, you could be right. It could just be really bad, cheap effects, but I do think that was intended in a way. My other point is that a lot of this is a bit like Amy's Choice, isn't it? I mean, you have a lot of situations for the characters that are having to wonder if what they're seeing is real or which part of this is real and not. And I thought that was pretty clever as well, without ripping off the episode entirely.
Okay, Philip?
Just echoing some sort of an off-air conversation that Connor said about maybe the doctor should have seen how a return to her family. It would have been nice if they did sort of like materialize Susan's then, and Susan say, "Doctor, I need your help," and it would sort of like dovetail into the finale where we go back to where Susan is and have a big old battle with whoever, if you know what I mean. That would have been nice and interesting, to say the least.
Okay, Connor?
I think a nice little thing that they should have done with the story, actually, is that right at the beginning, and something that I thought that they would do, is when Graham said that him and Grace had been talking for a while about going to Norway, and then you find out that there is Grace in this weird heaven-like universe where they're trying to lure you in to like coexist or whatever. It would have been nice if that whole entire like thing was set up so that the TARDIS would land there for that to happen. So it was like one big elaborate plot. But of course that didn't happen. But it didn't take away from the episode. It would have just been a nice little bit of sort of continuity. And yeah, I've got to agree with Philip that actually I think it would have been very effective and very jaw-dropping if they did play on the Doctor's family, which is something that was alluded to in Ghost Monument. And because it was kind of playing with the mind in like projecting people that they'd lost, and how the Remnants was talking about that there was something that the Doctor was hiding and the Timeless Child and all that. It would have been nice if we got a little bit of a tease or an answer to that sort of prophecy, I guess you could call it. So whether bringing back Susan or a member of the family that we haven't seen before, or another Time Lord or something, would have just kind of like made this episode very, very special. Tim said that it was very Amy's Choice, but actually the feelings that I got from it was, I did get Amy's Choice. Yeah, I think Amy's Choice is a fair assessment. But I think also quite Listen is quite an apt description, because it's quite psychological. It's more like conjecture than anything else about the whether you would want to stay with them or not. And I also think, as I said earlier, Heaven Sent is another thing. I think it's like a very sort of left field, as has been alluded to before, episode that is kind of like in a very specific group that you don't really get many of, but we've got more of recently, but it's not a very typical sort of genre for Doctor Who to delve into. I think that as well is what makes it such a great episode and such a standout for this series, where it's kind of all been kind of bland and by the numbers.
It's like, how could you leave your blind daughter alone for how many days to go sit in another universe? You know, it's like, the booty was good. No. All right, Graham.
Yeah, an alternate reality booty call notwithstanding. To pick Connor up on his point, with regards to the Timeless Child, date stamp best new, folks. Much like Davison and his salary, I don't think you'll get an answer to that until our last episode. And I just find it interesting that Granny number 2 was a Zygon secret agent.
Oh, yeah, I like that bit too. I thought that was a clever throw in as well. That, you know, she always thought she was a Zygon secret agent. Yeah. Okay, so very, very interesting episode. And once again, this is going to be one that I think that it's going to be on that one scale where either you're going to love it or you're going to freaking hate it. That's why I think it's going to end up happening. Okay, Kellen.
Yeah, speaking of the Granny being a secret agent, I'm not quite sure. I think Tom Baker didn't know the Zygons, so that would be a bit strange. Well, I'll have to watch that episode again. Anyway,
It would be a bit weird, wouldn't it? Are you my grandma? Oh, okay. All right. So, like I said, love it, hate it, interesting, and like I said, unfortunately, you had number 9 of 10, and of course, the New Year's Day special awaits. The one I'm looking forward to, of course, is I want to see how they're going to wrap this sucker up next week. It's going to be the interesting bit, because unfortunately, that one's written by Chibs. Okay. All right, Vil, what do you got that on?
Well, I think that the final episode might see a return of a certain. I can't think of the name of the creature, but the Tooth Fairy, if you will. I just have a feeling that we're seeing him again.
Stenza.
Thank you. Yeah, that.
Yeah, it could be because they did spare his life all the way back in that first episode. So, he might pop up again. We don't know. Connor?
Yeah, I definitely think that voice was a Stenza voice. Whether it's a Stenza army or whether it's Tim Shaw again, we'll see.
Very true, because it would be interesting, if the battle turned out, whatever that it's referred to in the title, that's what it's referring to, some kind of conflict with that particular species. But like I said, we don't know for sure. That's just speculation at this point. All right, so now that we've reached, I guess, the end, are there any more thoughts, opinions? Okay, everyone's kind of shaking their head. So, wait a minute, Vil, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, too, to add on to their battle and everything, maybe we will end up with a surprise of sorts, and one side of that battle might be someone like the Daleks.
No, I doubt it. Because I'm not kidding. The second a Dalek would have rolled anywhere, so the phones would have been picked up, people would have been screaming and all that. Heck, we had a couple that just got moved to another location, and everybody went crazy on that. Hell, they went crazy just because Jodie was trying to catch a train at a train terminal one day. That was a funny one. Yeah, everyone was throwing a fit saying, they're filming something. Wait, she don't look like, she's not dressed like the Doctor. She was just trying to catch a bloody train. So she kind of found out the hard way, just how hardcore, the paparazzo can get with Doctor Who, I guess. Okay, Philip.
I just wish it would have been nice if Jodie just actually kissed the frog and see what happens after that, basically.
Oh, great. Then you're walking into what was that one?
I would turn to John Barrowman. Yeah.
Yeah, then you're walking into definite fairy tale territory, and then Disney would want to cut.
Yeah, no, I don't want that.
Why not? They're cutting all the Marvel programs off Netflix, those big round-eared bastards. Yeah, Mouseketeers. Yeah, I got something for your Mouseketeers. Okay. Let's go ahead and we're going to wrap this sucker up. We're going to rate it and put it to bed. All right. Let's start down here at the bottom with Texas Tim. Out of 10, what do you think of It Takes You Away?
It was good. It's probably the most Doctor Who-ish episode we've had this year. But that doesn't mean it was great, though, so I'll give it an 8.5.
Okay, Vil?
I'm echoing very much what Tim was saying, but for me, that's putting it at a 6 because, like I said, this series has really felt kind of flat to me.
Okay. Don't be shy. You're not the only one. There's a lot of folks out there feeling the same way. So, okay, Josh.
I'd give it a 9.5 only because I really fell in love with the writing because, it literally felt like if I would write an episode of Doctor Who, that's how I would want it written. So I really fell in love with that aspect of everything. So.
Okay. Beefhead?
Yeah, well, this, I think, like Connor says, it's a sort of falls into a very strange category, like Arc of Infinity, Doctor's Wife, these sort of strange pocket universes, and it just seems to be an amalgam of a lot of things, Solaris, The Matrix, and all those other ones as well. I like the idea that it was wrong-footing, that you were expecting it to go one way and it takes a turn and goes another. The clunkiest part was just the buffer zone between the middle, and I think, sadly, it would have benefited, I think, of having a more rounded aspect to it with Ribbons because he was a bit of a red shirt, as Tim said. But overall, Jodie was great, Graham was great, the young girl was great, so I can't fault the cast on that point, to be honest with you. Even Yaz was better this week, even though we didn't have much to do. Finally, after 9 weeks, you've got a rounded idea of the Doctor, so I've got to give it a 7. It's for me definitely, it has that Doctor Who feel to it that has been lacking, but it's by no means the greatest. But it's solid, so I will give it a 7. It's slightly above average.
Okay, Graham?
As the guys have alluded to, enjoyable enough. Stronger outing for Jodie here. And the whole cast was solid. It's episode 9, so I'll get a 9. Bugger it. Roll on next week.
All right, Philip?
Do you know what? It was really good story. It had potential. I like the way it was going and everything. All the cast were great, as Tim said. Everybody was good in it. But it's just that green creature ruined it for me towards the end. And I wish it wasn't in it. But score-wise, I'll give it an 8. Just for the sake of it being quite good. Turn 8. There you go.
Yeah, don't diss on the Kermit, man. Okay, DWC.
Compelling story. Jodie really felt like Doctor. Real threat of death in this one, so it's a 9 for me.
Okay, Paul.
Yeah, I thought this was one of the best episodes where it's actually felt like Doctor Who for a change. I mean, the whole season's been quite flat, but there's been some standout episodes, but I'd say this is one of the better ones as well. Jodie is now the Doctor now. She's acting like the Doctor. She's in command. She's in control. So the only thing that let it down was that blasted green thing at the end. But I'm going to give it a 9 for that. If it wasn't for that, it would be a bit more higher.
All righty, Connor?
I no longer feel like I need to go back to Capaldi for my Doctor Who fix because Jodie's finally got into the role. So I think that it'll get a 9 from me this week.
All right, and Kellen?
Yeah, it was all right, enjoyable enough. I'll give it an 8.
Okay, I'm going to throw in a 9 because this one had a good feel to it. And sure, I know a lot of people are going to be let down by the frog, but I think, my theory is I think the frog was animatronic. I have to go back and look just to see. I don't know if it was CGI or not, but I could understand the concept of why they went that way because, how do you really, put up a being that's its own universe, and so I can see why they went with the surrealistic depiction, rather than trying to find a creature, a species, or some kind of thing to make it up to say, okay, hello, I'm the villain, I'm a conscious universe. How do you really picture that? How do you really form that? So I can see why they went in that direction. Plus, as some of you guys have said, Jodie, I have to say, was really, really more the Doctor, I think, in this episode than she's been all series. She's, been, there, but not as far as she was in this one. She's really, really nailed it. Well, folks,
Can I just say one thing? Can I just say one thing? Could it be that the frog was a replacement for that actual creature that was meant to be in it?
I don't think so. From what we've seen of the pictures, it was a dark setting and all that. I think the creature was supposed to be something they probably encountered in the caves, and it got edited out for time.
If you want to complain about the frog, just remember it always could have been a caterpillar saying, "Who are you?"
Exactly. It could have been the Cheshire Cat. You never know. So it was an interesting selection, that they decided to go with the frog thing. It really was. All right. So next week, it's the Battle of Klaatu Barada, whatever. I'm not even going to look up the name because it's a really long one. I know you can spell Skaro twice if you rearrange the letters. Oh, I don't know what you do with the rest of them, but somebody pointed that out a while back. So join us for that next week. It'll be the final episode, at least to the New Year's Day special. And all I can say is enjoy the rest of your week, folks. Good night.
And for Star Trek fans, why does a frog need a starship?
Like that.